Hello there. What is going on, everyone? Today I want to ask the big question, what is the Shadow Collective? I know a lot of you guys have asked me that and have asked me to kind of do an actual breakdown and clarify what it actually is. And to do that, I have to answer a couple of other questions first. So we're going to be handling the big three questions in this video. First off, I can't explain the Shadow Collective without talking about what battle forces are, and it really aids me in talking about battle forces if I can also answer the question, what are mercenaries? Those two together kind of add up into what the Shadow Collective is, and so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you are a new player to Star Wars Legion, or a returning player, or any player that just is looking for a little bit more clarity on what these terms mean and how you can utilize them and what it means for you and your games, this is the right place to be. If you guys are new here to the channel, we are doing lots of giveaways. We have the lightsaber giveaway that is running all through the end of the year. Also, the 12 Days of Life Day. All you have to do to enter to win any of those is to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. I want to know who your favorite lightsaber wielder is in all of Star Wars, and it can be a dark saber wielder as well. Dark saber still counts, right? Also, if you want more questions, or you want to, like, if this gets you like deeper and wanting to, kind of examine stuff further or list build further, you definitely check out my Discord. It's a great place to kind of keep the conversation going. Also, definitely want to thank today's sponsor, Luxury Playstyle, amazing full metal tokens compatible with Star Wars Legion, as well as a ton of other tokens compatible with X-Wing or Magic the Gathering or Keyforge or you name it. Also some brand new Legion tokens for Ion, Observe, Poison, Immobilize. Those are all available. Head over to luxuryplaystyle.com right now. Get your orders in. Use code CrabbokVIP. You're going to save 15%. Great holiday gifts and prize support for tournaments. Let your folks know this is maybe what you want for that stocking, and get your orders in quickly. All right, that's going to do it for all the admin stuff. Let's go ahead and start asking the first question. What are mercenaries? First of all, because mercenaries kind of came out with the Shadow Collective when, you've probably seen images like this. You've seen the new Maul, you've seen the Maul DeLoreans. You're thinking, well, what are these? Well, we first have to answer the question, what are mercenaries? So mercenaries are any unit in Star Wars Legion that's not in one of the four basic factions. So if you think of the four basic factions as Rebels, Empire, GAR, or Galactic Army of the Republic, and Separatists, those are the four factions that exist in the game right now. If you're not in one of those four factions and you have a different symbol in your top right-hand corner, then you're a mercenary. And mercenary itself means a couple of different things. So first off, mercenaries can potentially be included in normal armies if they have the right symbol. You're going to notice some of these mercenaries next to their affiliation symbol, which is in the top left, they're going to have smaller faction symbols or the lack thereof. They may have, like in the example of the Pikes, they may have all four faction symbols. In the example of the AA5, it has two gray circles. That means it can't go in any of the normal factions. So basically, to find out where they can be used, you need to reference that top corner and look for different faction symbols there. Some mercenaries can only go in 1, some go in 0, some can go in 4. You always have to check. Every mercenary is different on who they will work with. On top of that, including mercenaries in an army does not count towards your minimum requirements. If you're putting, Pikes into your rebel army, for example, that doesn't count as one of your 3 core. You would still need 3 core from your own faction. So when you're putting mercenaries into a faction-based army, they aren't counting towards the minimums for those, and that's an important thing to keep in mind. Now, normally, your mercenaries will count, you can include 2 mercenary corps in any faction-based army, and 1 mercenary of any other given rank. So you're capped out at only 2 corps and 1 of anything else, whether it be a support or a special forces or an operative or a commander. Now, also want to point out one thing. You probably noticed already that some of the stuff that you're looking at is slightly changed because Cad Bane didn't used to look like this. Speaking of mercenaries and bounty hunters, in the latest upgrade card pack 2, all of the bounty hunters in the game have been errated and completely been reformatted and redone as mercenaries now, which means as the default rule, you can only have one bounty hunter in an Imperial army. So if Boba Fett and Bosk were your normal like you liked to run them both as Imperial operatives. Now all of a sudden they're mercenaries, so as a default rule, you're only going to be able to include one. There are ways around that though, but as of right now with the basic rule, you're limited at only one for anything that's other than core. Also, as far as the mercenaries, you'll notice Boba Fett is only able to go in the Empire, so he's a lot. Like the spirit of his rework keeps him where he was, but I've also redone a lot of these guys to go along with all of that. And since this card kind of came out around the same time that Mercs and Battle Forces all came out, I wanted to clarify that a little bit. Another thing about mercenaries that you'll notice is that they all have a affiliation. And in the top left corner where you don't see an actual faction symbol, you're going to see a different symbol, and that symbol is their affiliation. Now, there are 5 different affiliations currently. There's Black Sun, the Pike Syndicate, Raiders, Rogues, and Maul Loyalists. Now, what do these affiliations mean? Well, first off, they mean a couple of different things. First off, you'll need to reference the card to see if there's any special affiliation roles. Like, for example, on like Pikes and Black Sun Enforcers, they have self-preservations. So that means that they can't reference their commander's panic value, and they would kind of are looking for an affiliated commander. In the case of like both the Pikes and in Black Sun, they have a leader that's also of their same affiliation. So if Black Suns are being led by another Black Sun leader, then they can potentially use that character's courage value. But that's a unit specific thing. Not every affiliation has the self-preservation keyword, but I thought it'd be a good time to kind of talk about that, as Pikes and Black Sun are 2 more common mercs that will appear in a lot of different armies, Pikes being the more common of the 2 right now that also happen to have self-preservation. But there are other affiliations. There are Raiders and Rogues. You've already seen the Rogues, for example, with the Bounty Hunters. They have that golden symbol up there with the credit that is for Rogues, and of course with any of these affiliations they have other roles and rules assigned to them. For example, they cannot be issued orders from a unit that is outside of their affiliation, or their affiliation graphic. However, they can issue orders to the normal, so basically if Boba Fett is in the Empire, an Imperial officer can't just issue Boba Fett an order, but if Boba Fett plays a command card that issues out other orders, he can still order other Imperial troops. He just doesn't accept orders from them. And much like how I said, that there's ways around some of these things, there's cards that break all of the special rules that these mercenaries have. For example, Underworld Connections is an important card to talk about if we're talking about mercenaries, because it's something you can play on a leader that gives them a keyword called Allies of Convenience. And what this does is it does break the rule of 2 with mercenaries, or the rule of 1 and 2 for core. It basically allows you 1 additional mercenary of each rank beyond those minimums. So now if you wanted to run Bosk and Boba Fett, you would need an officer with Underworld Connections in order to do that. Or if you wanted to run 3 Pikes instead of 2, you'd also be able to do that. Now, this doesn't overwrite the fact that you still would need 3 Stormtroopers or 3 core from your own parent faction. However, it does give you a lot of more flexible list building if you're wanting to include mercenaries. The other thing that Underworld Connections lets you do is it does let you issue orders to friendly mercenary units regardless of their affiliation. And so this is going to overwrite that second limitation that mercenaries have, and that they couldn't receive orders from a non-affiliated leader, or anyone really, because it doesn't always have to be a leader, right? You can always have a card that kind of breaks that rule. Also, some characters, like Maul, for example, have Allies of Convenience already built into them. So while this new keyword exists on Underworld Connections, it's also a keyword that can be present already on certain other cards. Next, I want to talk about what are battle forces, because these all of these new terms and terminology and ways of playing came out at around the same time, or were at least announced at the same time. So battle forces also are a new kind of way to play the game, and basically they represent thematic groupings of units and armies that will have fought together, and things that are almost like sub factions within the game of Star Wars Legion. For a long time, we had been teased that sub factions were coming, and battle forces are basically a way of doing a sub faction without calling it a sub faction, because some of these, like, it might not be appropriate to consider the 501st as a sub faction of GAR, because they might not like that term. It might seem like they were taking the law into their own hands or something like that. But we know what we think of when we hear the word sub faction, and so they decided to call them battle forces in Star Wars Legion. Now, they typically have a limited pool of units. So in the case of like Echo-based defenders, if the units that you saw in the opening scene of Empire Strikes Back on the Battle of Hoth, those are typically the units that you'll be able to see inside that battle force. Whereas, when Ewoks come out next year, they're probably not going to be legal to field an Echo-based defenders. Same thing with like Blizzard Force. You've got your snowtroopers in there. 501st Legion is got its own restricted pool. So does the Separatist Invasion. They have their own restricted pools, and so what they're trying to do is they're trying to restrict your list building, but give you some rewards based on those restrictions. They also typically have alternative rank requirements, and so there's going to be a battle force document that talks about each individual battle force. It'll tell you what units are allowed. It'll tell you about the rank requirements. Sometimes battle forces will also have special rules. And these can be good rules, these can be bad rules. They can also be limited unique upgrades that can go into these units. A lot of times a unique upgrade might be a person, whether it's a heavy or a driver of a vehicle or something to that effect. And to keep everything thematic, some of those unique upgrades are ruled out, or some of them are allowed, and the Battle Force document will say what is legal in there. Now, they also are going to have sometimes specialty units that are only available to that battle force. In the case of Blizzard Force, there's a heavy response unit of stormtroopers that is unique and only available to Blizzard Force and not available to the regular Empire outside of that. Additionally, battle forces can have special command cards that are only able to be fielded inside that battle force. So this is part of some of the reward for having a more limited pool. And like, maybe I liked snowtroopers and maybe I really liked the ATST, but maybe I wanted to run Director Krennic with those. Well, that wouldn't make it not Blizzard Force, and then thus I wouldn't be able to include Blizzard Force specific stuff. So if you go to most of your typical list builders, whether it be like Legion HQ or Tabletop Admiral, you can say, hey, I'm building in Blizzard Force, or I'm building in the 501st Legion, and then it will restrict what is available to you, and so you can make sure you don't like accidentally include anything that is not associated with all of that. And it's pretty cool. Now, these are all going to be different things that you can get for free, but they're also going to come in the boxes too. All of the different Battle Force boxes that correspond to these 4 different Battle Forces are basically starters. And they're going to have physical printed out versions of any new cards that are there. But if you already have all this stuff and don't need to get a new starter, you can get all of these cards available that you can print and play. And those are all going to be available on Atomic Mass Games' website under the Star Wars Legion section. There is a whole section called Battle Force Documents. So if you want more information on a specific Battle Force, you're going to go to atomicmassgames.com, go to this, click on Star Wars Legion. It's going to bring you to a page that looks like this. Or at least in 2022, this is what it looks like. They may get a whole website revamp next year. So if you're watching this in the future and it looks a little different, I apologize. But this is how it looked on the day that I recorded this video. But basically, on the Battle Force documents, these are living documents, and they are going to showcase, what units are allowed in here, what the restrictions are, what the special rules are. It's going to be like a PDF, and it's going to say permission to print, so you can print out the Battle Force command cards or anything that's a Battle Force specific to that card. You can print those out and use those. And now, if you're doing command cards, you would have to also sleeve those cards, because obviously it's going to look and feel different if you're playing with cards on printed paper. And so all of that information is going to be there. You can get all of that there, or if you want to buy the starters, again, you can get the physical cards in there as well. So there's lots of different ways to get access to these Battle Force documents. Now, It's up to you whether or not you want to restrict yourself. Some of the battle forces are currently pretty good. They may get tuned a little bit as points updates come out. We know we're expecting some points updates soon, so they also may be changing on how good or competitive they are. But it's a very fun, thematic, different kind of way to play Legion and have access to some new command cards and potential units, and while restricting your list building. And that's kind of how Legion dealt with sub-factions. Which brings me to the Shadow Collective. So by now we should have a pretty good idea of what battle forces are and what mercenaries are. Shadow Collective is combining those two things. It is a battle force of mercenaries, and it is the only way to use certain mercenaries. So we talked about all the different mercenaries and all of the different affiliations that they have. Well, so the Shadow Collective is primarily the way that you're going to run the Maul Loyalists affiliation, and it has its own special rules document also on Atomic Mass Games website, and it's actually the first battle force that we ever saw. And so what it is it's right now it's the only mercenary battle force. It's the only way to run these cards, because all of the Maul Loyalists cards have just the gray dots, which indicate they don't go in any of the primary factions. This is the only way to run Maul as the Arrival variant. There is certainly the Separatist Maul, but that Separatist Maul can't be used in here because Maul Arrival is the only one that you can use here. Gar Saxon, for example, is only able to be used in the Maul a Loyalist or in the Shadow Collective battle force. The Maul DeLoreans, even the AA5, the new AA5 that came out in the upgrade card pack 2. It's not an errata to the Rebel one. You can still run the Rebel one, but if you want to run an AA5, you can run that in the Shadow Collective. Again, there is an entire document. If we go to Atomic Mass Games website, there is a Shadow Collective battle force that lists out all of the units that you can use in there. The swoop bikes can go into that, of course, pikes, and it has its own unique rules for running a Shadow Collective battle force. Now, the Shadow Collective box does come with Maul. It comes with like one of most of the stuff that's available for the Shadow Collective. It doesn't come with Gar Saxon, though. It doesn't come with the swoop bikes. So there's lots of additional expansions if you want to have more pikes or more Black Sun or things like that. If you want an AA5, you'll have to actually buy a Rebel AA5 and get that card from the card pack. So there's definitely more to expand on if you like Shadow Collective and you've bought the box and the Essentials kit, and you're kind of getting into the Shadow Collective now. There's more to expand upon. Now, what is going to come of battle forces in the future? Well, we do know that there are a couple more battle forces coming. We know that next year, in 2023, the Ewoks are coming to the game. They will be a battle force, and from what we've been told, they will be a rebel battle force. So they actually might be rebel units that are capable of being run as their own battle force. We also know the Imperial Remnant is coming, and that's we're getting little spoilers from Moff Gideon and Dark Troopers and things like that. So that should be its own battle force as well. There could be more battle forces coming for all of the different factions, as well as potentially more rogue battle forces. There's plenty of speculation to go around on what we might see in the future. We also know that the battle force documents are living documents. So as certain, for example, one thing that was mentioned is if Ahsoka were to come out in the Republic, she could potentially be added to the 501st so that she can be run with the 501st as would be appropriate. So like things like that. The door is open since these are PDFs. They can be adjusted, changed, and added to as new units come out, which is very exciting. My personal hope is that we get a General Riken for the Rebels, that he could be run normally or with the Echo-based Defenders. I think that would be really cool. So hopefully this has answered all of your questions as to what the Shadow Collective is, what mercenaries are, and what battle forces are, all into one video. If you like this video, I invite you to stick around and check out some more of my Legion content, as well as other Star Wars tabletop gaming content. We talk a lot about Legion, Armada, X-Wing, and of course the new Shatterpoint that is coming out next year as well. Hopefully you guys stick around, join our Discord, and keep the discussion going. I will talk to you guys later. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing and help make this channel possible. Thank you for your continued support. I will talk to you soon. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. You can't take the sky from me. So say we all, and party on, dudes.